Good evening, Owen. Thank you very much for meeting me.
Glad to be here.
I have a few questions to ask. The focus really is the future of global movement and integration. So, my first question to you is based on your work, how is the face of Ireland changing?
The face of Ireland is changing and has changed dramatically, I would say. I remember growing up in my hometown, and Ireland is quite a small country and in some ways cut off from the rest of Europe. And over the last 20 years, immigration has dramatically changed and the face of Ireland has changed, which, in my perspective is great because we need diversity. Every facet of life in the past was probably limited to the church being very influential in the society and, people looking to America, looking to the UK. But now my work, I am meeting people from every background, from every corner of the earth, in terms of, and people who are like from Ukraine, maybe under temporary protection, and, unaccompanied minors from different countries, and then we would have international protection people. So it's really changed a lot, and with that comes adaptation, and the society, I think, is still slowly adapting, and we can do a lot more in terms of integration. I believe in the Irish people that we can, welcome people and bring people into society and help people integrate. There are other aspects we have the worrying rise of more right wing dimensions, but I would say it's more minimal and hopefully it stays that way. So I would say it has changed a lot and it's still early days.
Okay. What will the community look like in say 10 years?
That's a good question. It's hard to kind of move that way forward, but I would say we would change a lot. Because in terms of at the moment, coming from a background where I was, we didn't have much immigration in my 20s, 30s, even. So it's only very recent occurrence. So I would say that we will have much more integration. I hope we'll have more of a multi-faith kind of approach to society, and we'll have different voices feeding into the society because we are global, and I suppose we are a nation state, and thankfully, membership in the EU has been good to Ireland, but we're part of a global picture, and we need a stable nation state, and we need everybody involved to make that happen, and different perspectives, people from different backgrounds. We need to also try and work on integration, so hopefully there will be more understanding and that people have their culture from where they come, from the country of origin, that they're able to show that
Yeah.
and also integrate into the Irish culture because there are some other societies where people come, immigrants come, and they don't learn the language or they don't integrate because it's a challenge for them. And so we need to make, hopefully there will be institutions in place to make that happen. I know there are some already. And so we need to grow that and make Ireland multicultural and function in a multicultural way that is inclusive and we can only benefit from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what skills will the next generation of global citizens need to handle the increasing migration?
Yeah, I suppose language is usually the first one when people come to Ireland. We have the Irish language too, but we're an English speaking country. Um, so the first thing is language, to develop the language skills, to be able to integrate and communicate with people. That's the first thing, to be mobile, and English needs to be one of those. Who knows in the future what language will be the economic language of the future. So that will be the first thing. But then it is about, being involved in the community that they're in. And that is, we all need a kind of frame of reference to start from. And in terms of labor market trends and all that, that is a bit like the stock exchange. You can change very quickly and dramatically. So ultimately, to get the foundation skills in place, whether it's a secondary school education, as adults now, we've got a very good adult education system where people can adapt and pick up different skills, and I suppose you're looking at the key skills that you're going to need for the particular job that you're going to get into. But I would rather than have a broad tent of what the future skill needs will be, I'd want to look at the foundation skills, language skills, IT skills, and then the interpersonal and people skills. Those three, and then it will depend then on the individuals. Focus on the individual first to see what are your interests, what are your abilities, what are your skills, and how do they get, translate into a job. And we need a range of skills. That's the other thing I would say is that people will probably need, you know, to be skilled in different areas. And you might have one person who's really good at IT and also is good at business. Or so I think that's probably what I see coming down the line.
What gives you the most hope about the way different cultures are mixing in your city right now?
What gives me hope for the future in terms of people integrating and mixing within my city, I would say that, seeing secondary school students outside my office of all kinds of backgrounds and accents, people carrying Harleys, which is a very specific Irish sport, with people who look like they could be from an immigrant background and for that to become the norm, I think is where we are on our way towards. And the hope then as well is different things that happen in the community. You see, like, whether it's the volunteer centre in our city or different parades like the St. Patrick's Day parade, like all of the international protection people are heavily involved in that, doing, stewarding and interacting with the public and all of that. But I suppose the younger generation are going to be the real hope because when you're young, you're more adaptable. And, those kids who are coming here who are young or born here, who can come from an immigrant background, they have the future. And, hopefully it becomes seamless. And that's really where we need to go because we do have national identities. But, come back to my earlier point, is working toward the global identity where everybody's included, but the individual cultures are also the space for that, and that everybody has an equal chance, within that. But yeah, I think the education system gives me hope too within our city and our country because lots of people who come from different backgrounds, from whether it's temporary protection or international protection, they are motivated to get going and they're accessing courses and training, and they're joining the workforce. That gives me hope also.
Okay, all right. So, what would you consider to be the value that immigrants bring to a country like Ireland?
I suppose Ireland has been a bit cut off, really. So we've had a bit of a mono way of doing things where, we've had religion which was dominant, the Catholic Church here for, hundreds of years. I suppose we could focus reaching out to America, looking at Europe. But I suppose then, we see it in sport as well. The multi, ethnic people whose backgrounds could be from any ethnicity are representing Ireland, and they're telling and they're feeding. That's an example where, we can all roll together and, but you don't have to be a sports superstar either. It should be in the workplace, in the office where, we all have something to offer.
Thank you very much, Owen, for your time. Is there anything else that you want to add, or something that you feel you want to comment on?
Oh, just glad to be part of it and best of luck with it.